Start out with leafcutter ants. Here we are in Costa Rica on the, what is this, southwestern coast of Costa Rica at Finca 6. It's farm 6. It used to be a banana plantation, and in the 1930s they discovered some peculiar objects that we're going to look at here in just a moment. There's a lot of jungle here and a visitor center. There's a $7 admission. Here we are in 2022 and there's nobody here. There's signs that say keep 6 feet distance. And I have yet to see anybody out here, so thanks for keeping a 6-foot distance from me. We've got at least my camera and your video screen to protect us from the plague of the century. So, in the introductory video, apparently you can walk along this. People walk through here. I don't know if you can see. I'll show you from this way so I can see what you see. The trail here. These are from the old banana plantation in the 1930s, apparently. It still seems like some decent metal. They're moored in with cement and the cables, so they just would, I guess, push cable cars. That's a lot easier than making a whole train track, but it goes on sort of in perpetuity. I'm sure this was a rather large banana plantation. They still do grow a lot of bananas out here. Oh, and here you can see the objects that they discovered at the banana plantations in the 1930s. These peculiar orbs, or spheres, they call them, the spheres. And it's sort of the really one, well, they are finding some clay artifacts and things too, but Costa Rica in the 1500s, overrun by Spanish, and wow, there still is a lot of bananas down the banana trail. You know, Spanish took over, and this was sort of, so Costa Rica was like the middle ground of Central America, where everything got sort of attacked and split off either north or south, and then Panama Canal, blah blah blah. But in the early days, they weren't indigenously oriented to the value of their society or what they could contribute, or their customs or ways or stories or myths, or even their sort of medicinal knowledge, and how they would eat, like what food they would find. I'm always surprised by that. The conquerors aren't like, well, what do you eat here? Like, well, we're going to introduce our European stuff, but like, what also is something that we could benefit from? You know, and they took cacao and whatever. Coffee, well, that's from Africa. Anyway, and tomatoes and basil from Peru. Architecture as a symbol of social differentiation. So the way that I had a friend who said, well, where are the pyramids? Like, Mexico has pyramids, Peru has pyramids, there's got to be pyramids. Well, no, they lived in grass freaking huts, you know, thatched with, and these were the foundations, were just stones because it would flood. And so kind of maybe the higher, they built them a little bit higher for fancier people, but they just built a bigger hut, was the like rank of importance. So building over mounds was a way of showing power and possibly obtaining refuge against floods. And so yeah, 1 meter tall, and it was just cobblestones from the river, and so it had probably pretty good drainage. But there's ramp, portico, the Spanish word, that's funny, and palenque. That's an interesting name. So these are the foundation, and then they would find these stones at particular spots. See, Finca 6 is where we are, and the 6th farm of the banana plantation. They never kind of named it because all the indigenous stuff was forgotten and killed and whatever. But so these stones, they're surmising, were placed at the openings of important people's houses. And also, we're going to go to this next section of the alignment sector alignment. And because that was the other thing, that because a lot of these were just moved around. They were like, ah, what are these freaking weird stones? And so they would just move them or put them somewhere, or brought them into San Jose, the capital city of Costa Rica, for like people's freaking landscapes. And you're like, ooh, pretty stone. They're made out of all kinds of materials, from granite to limestone to like soft stuff. And there's various stone sculptures too. So they did sculpt things. So it is peculiar that there's not pyramids or stone housing or stone buildings of any kind. This is a period from, was it 300 BC or 300 AD to like 800 was the main time that these spheres were being created. And they found 350 plus of them. They have no idea how many are made, obviously, but manufacturing number stamped on them, UPC barcode, QR code, telling how many were made of which lot. They're all different sizes. They're made from all different materials, so there wasn't a specific any manufacturing method or really even placement method. So the alignments part, did we come to it yet? Not yet. Here's more of the foundation, residents of the main personalities. So they're excavating. These are sort of the foundations, because everything got covered over in floodwaters. We're in like floodplain area, but beautiful jungle. And then I don't know if they machete manicure this, but we're still heading toward the alignment sector. And people are like, well, did the aliens make them? That's always our favorite jump to, that, well, they're so perfect, humans can't do that. Well, Canada did. Basically by banging stones on each other, they banged them around until they got round, like in a river. Walking around, let's see. Can you imagine the site covered by water? Those have been witnessed in 2017. So it still floods here. Storms, hurricanes, flooding several times. That would make amazing soil, actually. All the deposits of sediments completely covering the site. And so, yeah, so the sediment buries the stones. Oh, look, here we are, banana plantation. Is anything ripe? The sediment buries the stones, and a lot of them are still buried, and they leave some of them buried, sort of as a protection. Ooh, are those ripe? Not quite. Very close, though. I wish there were some red ones. I like those a lot. So they leave some of them buried, just a little bit peeking out, sort of to protect them, and they're going to get flooded anyway. And then they had a team from Mexico come in, and they I think excavated some of them, and some of them were a little more unburied, and they used like sand and plaster or limestone or something to stick them back together, the ones that they could with pieces and stuff, and they patched some of them just to give a representation of what they're like. And it's just funny that a team from Mexico came in to do that. But it took 3 long years of it's just hilarious compared to other architectural, what's the word I'm looking for? Digging in the ground. And so here's one. Excavational. I'm blanking on the word. It's really hot today. Alignments, vectors, spheres, D and E. Beep, boop, boop, beep. Lasers in the jungle somewhere. Okay, here's one bridge. I'm crossing this one when I come to it. Burn that bridge when you get to it. Lots of jungle. Some kind of berries. What is that? Don't know. It's not a botanic garden. Unfortunately, they could incorporate that, but they're too into archaeology is the word I'm looking for. Thanks for that. Alright, are we in the alignment sector yet? They align them with astrological or astronomical phenomenon. Here's balsa wood figures and devils. Blah, blah, blah. Beautiful. That's cool, carving masks out of them. That's super fake. Okay, whatever. I'm sure they used balsa wood. That's a very easy wood to carve and super abundant. But I'm surprised that anything would have survived. You know, the flood waters and, you know, water coming in is just going to degrade any kind of wood. So all those huts are long gone. I wonder if they're guessing about those, or I think they said they studied other indigenous cultures and they guessed that that was probably a reasonable thing to put on that sort of foundation they made out of the river stones. Here's the round monument. Monumentus redondos. The manufacture and mobilization of the stone spheres, an important collective effort, demonstration of power and authority. Different groups take place, showing off the hierarchy. Wow, so they excavated it just to look at it. And here's the general area. And Finca says they're directly on the ground, no traces of stone pavement, lying over a dark stratum corresponding to the occupation floor. Okay, so where they sat originally, collective effort involved moving rocks from the foothills to the alluvial plain, and their craftsmanship denotes the power of the leaders and the region, importance of the village. So those things that we saw carved out are now, they just, I guess, filled them back in, or the floodwaters did. And then they say that these align with like the sunrise or something, and possibly other, you know, phenomenon. But there you go, alignment sector. Now A, B, and C in the next video.